How deep can you plunge into the darkness?
Through the dark veil of space, time.
I wish we could have joined you sooner.
This is Warp Chatter.
Time is short. There is much to be done.
The wait ends now.
All right, welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Warp Chatter podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about Horus Heresy Legions, Warhammer 40,000, Horus Heresy lore, everything that encompasses. This is the podcast by players for players, and in that vein, we have got a player with us returning to the podcast. It's been a while, but we've got with us this week Needs Food Badly from the Reddit community.
Yeah, also known as Tryhard3.
Probably what you know him by.
Yes, if you're on the Reddit, that's where you'll see him for. I don't. Is that your in-game name too?
Tryhard_3. I changed my in-game name so it matches, so I can give people celebrity random appearances.
There you go.
In game, and make it less confusing when I win awards too. So, which has happened a couple times. So,
sometimes,
my overall shtick as a player is I got involved really at the beginning of the pandemic. So this is basically the start of year 2 for me, or the end of year 2, as it were, since that would make 2 years of the pandemic starting in maybe last March, April. Kind of, it's still this small community as it was then, but like in a small community, you really can easily kind of stand out when you start contributing. So I got involved in the Reddit side because I'm just not really a fan of the whole Discord milieu going on, but I'll get into that later. But Reddit is kind of like, it's very beginner-oriented. People ask beginner questions. People want to know things about the game that you would only know you'd have down pat if you were playing for a long time. And so there's a lot of room for like informational posting about the game. And you can kind of fill in gaps that Everguild doesn't really fill in. And really get involved in terms of like tutorials. So I'm the owner of the beginning Horus Heresy Legions post at the top of the Horus Heresy Legions Reddit. I wrote that about a year and change ago, I think last summer actually. And that's now like the most upvoted thing on the Reddit. And from there it's just kind of a summary of like what to do when you first start playing, what the factions are like, probably what the best ways to quickly accumulate gold are, things like that. What groups you should jump into. And then after that, like I became active with the community, and Skuff asked one day, like, "Hey, does anyone from Reddit want to show up on our Warp Chatter podcast?" And I went, "Sure, why the hell not?" After thinking about it a couple days, and got involved in an episode 37, which is the Ultramarines episode, probably one of a couple now.
Yeah, we've covered them a few times.
Yeah, and damn Ultramarines, patricians. The overall thing there was like, oh geez, how do I talk in a podcast for an hour about a faction that I don't necessarily love, but want to be able to speak to and talk semi-authoritatively on, so we're not just having dead air. So I ended up writing a series of notes. That series of notes became essentially a faction-focused post, because once I had it completed, I was like, oh yeah, this could probably help some people, because I've done all this research on what works and what doesn't, and different people on YouTube playing the faction, having different levels of success, and giving their recommendations. So a lot of what I write is actually leans on people who are really high level in the game, like Mr. Midnight, Pirate, I think it's Lahai? Is it Leahy or Lahai? I never quite know.
Everyone says the name wrong every time, but I refuse to learn how to say it right.
Yeah, I try pronouncing it. Every now and then I'll get it, and then I'll repronounce it differently. and not get it.
I'm sure you'll have him back on here at some point, and he'll very gregariously tell you what it is.
I still won't say it right.
And Mr. Midnight, I really enjoy just for how snarky he gets, and like he's doing these really well-made decks, plays really, really well in the moment, is able to explain what he's doing as he does it, which is great. And then, like, if someone makes like a bad play at him, he just kind of loses his shit a little bit, which is, to me, I think that's great. It's nice to see someone be like, "Why are you playing this? Why am I losing to it? Oh my god, I hate you." And that's kind of like the charm to a lot of his stuff for me. But he's a big resource for me to learn how stuff works. I kind of sit at like the 2500 ranking, and that's where I sit. I don't really enjoy high-level play, but I enjoy breaking down factions in a really like, here's what works, what doesn't. Here's what I think of this warlord. Here's how this faction sits in terms of play style and what they're good at and what they really aren't. So you kind of know as a player, like, hey, I'm 20% of the way into my Thousand Suns collection. What should I be doing here to make this actually click? Which for factions that are complicated like that is, I think, a good resource for people. So there's technically 28 factions. I've gotten faction focus posts done for 14 of them. So I'm halfway there. I'm not looking forward to some of them, but I'm going to try and conceal my opinions about them or wait for a patch before I start talking about them. That kind of thing. But on top of that, I get involved with doing like guides to the PvE scenarios that come out about once a month. And those kind of range, as we know, the PvE games are, I think, easy for experienced players for the most part, but have their little quirks and really like to get into that with people in terms of like, here's what I would do here if you're having trouble here. Here's how I deal with the secret boss, that sort of thing. Yeah. And that seems to be helping people out a lot. So at the risk of just talking myself to death, I concede the floor back. But yeah, that's kind of who I am and what I'm about. I like helping beginning players and kind of supporting the community and stretching my writing muscles when I can.
Well, we're going to be talking about a couple of those things, I think, today, because the main topic is going to be the Space Wolves balance patch, which took place April 1st. But we've also got some other stuff that came out around the same time, too. You mentioned the PvE, the campaign, and we have a Prospero campaign, the Wolves on Prospero, which is just a couple days fresh. So we talk about that a little bit here. We've also had, in this last week, we've had Bjorn added to the game. So he's in the game. He's also got a special card, which is included in the balance patch. We've got a lot of stuff going on, mainly wolf-centric, yeah. But kind of covering a variety of things. And this just in, as of an hour and a half before we start recording, we're going to be getting a double ticket weekend this weekend. So by the time you hear this, the double ticket weekend's already over. Forget about it.
Well, I've already happened, folks.
You will either have gotten your double tickets or you'll have missed out on your tickets. But that is the reward for apparently all the players who looked for the Alpha Legion operatives on April 1st. So for those of you who did, I want to say thank you for your efforts, and I appreciate the double tickets.
If you're like me and you play with no audio, so you wouldn't have noticed in the first place, I also respect you.
That's exactly like I appreciate that they do that every April 1st. It's kind of it's a tradition. We're going to get Alfarius in the shop, and this year we got Alfarius. We got one of many, and we've got the mission, and they were laid out very nice and what's the word I'm looking for? Symmetrical in the shop. Yes.
Yeah, it looked good.
It looked good. And, so that was cool. But then they also did the voice lines thing, which is kind of a little fun game for people to play and hear the voice lines of which troops do what.
They also let us mods run the Crucibles, a very specific one in practice. They also forgot to give a couple of us mods that, so I didn't get to. That hurt.
I still think you guys should have been able to play it on ladder just because it was day one. And then just have them reset your scores at the end of the day. Just day one of the season doesn't count. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Would have been
I actually would have really.
And then they just like after April 2nd,
yeah.
they take the mod accounts and they just reset your ladder rank. Like, done.
They take the mod accounts and they just delete it.
Why not?
Why not?
Fuck it. Random troll encounters on your first day of the season.
Yeah,
they're fun.
You're grinding with Karn. You're like, I'm going to do it, and then like you just run into like Torchmaster to kill, and you're like, what? No.
Well, it was a very specific one we were allowed to run, and it was the one of many variant. In case you've ever seen him, I forget exactly what he does. But
I don't remember what he did either. But it was literally the one of many card as the warlord.
Yeah. Yep. Two of us didn't get him. So we didn't get to do that. I was one of them, and Dornstash was also one of them.
I mean,
the Dornstash did the next best thing and played Tikal.
That's the only perk of being a mod, right? I mean, the card back and being able to play Crucible bosses on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, card back and just the Crucible bosses. We get regularly yelled at, but I wouldn't call that a perk.
I wouldn't call that a perk. That's just your job. Like, hey, listen.
We get paid to get yelled at. We don't even get paid.
You don't get paid. You get paid in
We get paid in Crucible bosses.
Yes. So we've got that April 1st kind of came out, so we're getting double ticket weekends from that. But April 1st hit us with a lot, and we didn't talk about the Space Wolves patch last episode because it had come out, but we had already planned to talk about the Defenders of Caliban, and normally anticipate like the bounce patch comes about like the 5th to the 7th of the month, and this week they just hit everything. All boom, April 1st, here it is. It's all here. So we've got a lot to kind of go over. We've had a week to kind of see it in action, and kind of maybe help build some thoughts on it as well. But before we talk about the patch, I mean, we mentioned the campaign. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So there's the Prospero campaign, and you mentioned Tryhard. I'll refer to you as Tryhard from going forward. So
for great, actually.
Yeah, for consistency purposes.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously like some tips for the players or people who are going into the campaign. I think there are some consistent practices that generally work through most campaigns, but there is always kind of that variation on the final run. And I've seen a lot of people salty about the Magnus boss battle in this last one. And I know for me personally, I just play through Warlord 1, Warlord 2, Warlord 3, and I beat it with Warlord 3. That's just my goal, and I know some people get frustrated, and if they get frustrated, there's always a better Warlord to go back to. I beat it with Russ, but it was not easy.
No.
There usually is. For my part, like I've seen like a change in the way they're designing these PvE events. It used to be very like... what's the word? It kind of plays itself. Like you didn't really have to ever use your warlord's ability. If you just consistently slammed the enemy warlord, just went face, regardless of who you were playing, you were probably going to win. And sometimes that's still true, especially on like the first leg of these campaigns. But this one, even though you're playing Space Wolves, there's a lot of situations where you kind of want to play it slow and way less risk averse. And in that case, it basically, your best bet is Othir Weirdmake. And I don't even know if I'll ever pronounce that correctly, because you could also just joke around and call him O there, because that's basically his name. But he's been, even before the patch, he was good. But before the patch, he was basically like, I'm going to sit here and delay and dither until I have like that 8E Dreadnought with the ward who gets a giant pack damage bonus, and he'll just kill you for me after I've turtled all game. And now he's much, much faster, but still very control oriented. So when you're going through with him, his campaign is honestly the easiest. So if you bust out on Magnus, or more than likely Phosis Dakar if you draw poorly, you can just get right back in there with them and try again. And he really supports doing things like really just buffing your warded units, especially the Jordan Stalker Squad and the Halden Baelai. Mm-hmm. If they're hitting and then getting their health back, they're a nightmare. So that's basically like half of the battle right there. And outside of that, it's just being careful.
I find the only reason Othar is good at supporting is simply for his ability costs. If Bullvise was 1 energy, Bullvise would be the easiest to do the campaign with.
Yeah, and I think
It's
when we get to the
simply that he
patch
can
too, I
use
want
the
to talk
bull.
about that because that is definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
I have, yeah.
I would also argue that a lot of the campaigns you really had to use abilities, especially in the beginning ones, because like Sigismund was his first campaign. If you're not playing you kind of got to use Sigismund ability, and I'd say Proto-Robobot was really brutal.
Yeah, that first Imperial Fists campaign was like, oh my god, I don't want to do one of these ever again.
I would say there was no really campaigns where you could just hit them in the face, because they always had these really weird niche warlords, or you were stuff like Phosphist Takar. I think the only ones that you didn't really have to try in was I want to say Ultramarines.
It matches a couple things. So Raven Guard was very just punch them in the face and stop overthinking it. And I don't know if there's any other way to play World Eaters. You just go face and you.
Well, if you're Erlen, you were just using ability.
Yeah, was he in that campaign? Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
He was using ability, but outside of that, even in a lot of the ostensibly control-oriented warlords, early on, I was discovering that if I slow played, I would just get overmatched by the bots outvaluing me if I took too long.
I'll definitely agree. You couldn't slow play, but I didn't see any incentive to not just ability spamming them, because especially when we were Death Guard, the first warlord they gave us was Infinite Frontline, and then the others was Mortarion, which the funnest thing to do to a bot is just make it not do anything.
Yeah, in Mortarion you had to spam stun, but on what's his name? The new guy, Morarg, he was I better just keep my damage up and then use my ability on when I need to protect a key dude who's coming out, and I don't want him to be run over by a race car on the other side of the board.
There was no downside to just using his ability every turn. In fact, it made it trivial because of just the way the bots were. It was even unstoppable. Half the time they would hit your front line.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I want to go over with this as well in terms of the PvE events is whenever I post my solution, I usually get 2 or 3 alternate solutions from people or completely different experiences. So people were the Bolvi campaign is AIDS on Reddit, and I'm geez, I went through that in one go, no problem. And I think it was partially luck of the draw and partially what I had for card packs, which I guess is still luck of the draw. So, if you don't get Phosis, or if you do get Phosis and your early draws are good, you're in good shape. But the overall thing with it is, I think the PvE events are a little bit too RNG focused right now, and really, I think challenge people's preconceptions about what they should be doing every once in a while, and just throwing people for a loop, which is good in a certain sense, but in others it's okay, I'm trying to play Space Wolves and I've got to slow play constantly. It's not what they expected.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the general expectation of Wolves in general. People think, oh, they're aggressive, they should be attacking all the time. But that's aside from Russ, and even then, you don't have Berserk. You don't have to attack with him.
Sure as hell feels like he does.
There's two things about that. Previous to this patch, you were basically playing Weirdmake or Russ, and Russ was unless you're in very advanced play, let's just slam the attack button all the time. In many cases, so that I think people were trained a little bit on that, and people probably didn't know what to do as much with Bolvi, just because prior to this, and maybe still, Bolvi is a little bit rough to play. That and the other guy, the new guy, he's not new, but he's vastly improved.
Giger?
Yeah, Gigor.
Grieger.
He went from maybe one of the worst warlords in the game. I just couldn't make him work at all. To if I just word search flank in my deck, we're in great shape. So
I would not put him in the worst, but he was not good.
He was not good. And Bolvi is still like, okay, like ward is okay, but when he can do a couple things. He can ward himself, which is not usually what you want. And I've seen him ward units that die as they trigger the ward bonus on themselves. And I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah,
so
that happens from time to time. I don't think it's intentional. Hopefully,
No,
I think he can also ward himself or the same unit choice, which is just oh my god!
I haven't seen him ward the same unit twice. He can ward himself.
I have seen him ward himself,
but it's his ward is supposed to work like Korvax's poison, where if it's already a unit's already been poisoned, he can't poison it again. The poison doesn't land on it if there's another target. So the same goes for ward. Like if you've got 3 units out and you're able to ward 3 times with his pack, all 3 units will get ward.
Yeah, a classic example of RNG not being random.
Yeah, but the
well, if it were random, and I swear that I've seen him do it. If it were randomly just like wording the same thing twice, he'd be awful.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, of course.
Yeah, well,
I think
the caveat that they don't have on the text should be that doesn't already have it. It's the same thing with Korvax. Like, he can poison a random unit that doesn't already have poison. Like, that's really what the text is. Like that's the factor. Once they've been poisoned, you take them out of the pool, and then you randomly poison a different troop.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with Bolvi, and we're not yet at the balance patch, but I think with the
we're getting there.
We're gonna get there. With the campaign, I didn't have any problem with Othar. He was the easiest. Bolvi was not hard at all. You played a little bit slower. Russ, his packs were just terrible, and that's really what hung me up. It took me forever to get good drafts. Like there was 3 runs I did, and 2 of them, every pack I had was like cost 6+ cards, and I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you giving me these terrible cards? Like, and none of them were the standard go-tos for a Rust deck. Like, I think the final run I won on, I think I got the +1 attack on his turn, and then my troops cost -1, so I could actually bring in my 6 cost troop at 5 energy. Like, that was the big upsell for me. I was like, geez, like, I mean, that's what I had to go for. Whereas, like, Othar had great packs. Jordan Stalker squad ×4. Sure, great, cool, awesome. Like, I guarantee to get that off as a turn 1 play, and then that thing's going to do work. Against Phosis Takar, what I had work with everybody was I would play the mission, because that's the only, especially for Rust, that's about the only match you're going to get the mission to trigger. And then if I had that 3/3 troop that heals itself, I would drop them down, and then they could just attack his structures and then heal, and that's going to trigger my mission faster, and I can actually get things off. But
yeah, the mission is great. I watched Not Your Physics Teacher play the new campaign on stream, and he kept mucking the mission, and I'm like, oh my god, don't do that.
I mean,
like, it's sometimes
I did for most of the campaign too.
It'll not always come in handy, but when it does, bang, it's not a win. So that stuff where you get stopped up late is just not going to be a problem when your Jordan is making everyone on the board, including itself, do +2/+2 every turn.
It's a nice trick.
So
that's the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like the only time I got the mission to work was when I was just abusing the bot. Because every other time I just won before it even activated. Because 8's a lot of hits. It doesn't sound like a lot, but say each troop has 4 attack, 8's already lethal in a normal 30 HP game.
Right. Well, and that's why I said like Phosis, you're going to get 2 attacks just from breaking a barrier. So that's that one, it actually makes a big difference too, because sometimes he's barriering, whatever big chunky thing you want to take care of.
Yeah. So for example,
me, Phosis was a dream, because every time he would so hyper focus on placing barriers. More often than not, he would have 3 barriers down by using the rally troops in his ability. That,
or he wouldn't have any psyker, so you didn't have to worry about astral warfare or anything like that.
Nope, I didn't. So I just kind of hit him in the face a couple times.
Bot logic.
Yeah, but the other part of it is if you want to clear it fast. You punitive strike. You've got the mission on. You can play the mission and a cold beer hunters on the same turn on your second turn. No problem, and you're getting all the hits you need. It's pretty great when it comes into play because it's just like, oh, well, I don't even have to think anymore after I do this 8 times. So, yeah, it comes through big time. There's different ways to do it, like I was saying. Like I'm hearing that like there's a way to play it differently than I played it, and I heard in the thread that there is, and I definitely respect that. But yeah, like when I was doing it, I'm like, we're gonna take this slow and steady, and not really. It was usually a bad idea to like have Russ slam face nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Magnus battle is hurtful, and like because the 2 that I lost. So I lost one where he dropped like an Izzar ore, like late game. I didn't have a front line. I'm like, fantastic, awesome. Nothing that's you would lose in a standard matchup. The other one I was doing really well. I had the warded dreadnought. It was up to like 13 attack, and he dropped like 2 frontline troops, and I was like, really. It just gets frustrating, and then finally it's like I like I said, like I just got lucky with. I can't say I got lucky. I got dealt the hands I got, and somehow it was not as hard the third time around. But it was not an easy one, just because of Psyker, and sometimes the bots getting those draws.
The RNG is real. I had Othir with -1 to his Warlord ability, which makes him incredibly amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just, I forget what else I had. I might have had like a troop discount even. And it's like, if you have those 2 things, you're pretty much golden as long as your card packs come through even a little bit.
Yeah. Any sort of energy reduction or increase, like anytime you can change that in the campaigns, that's always a valuable pick.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I liked the Ultramarine campaign from last month because I felt like it wasn't very RNG focused, and I had to think through what I was doing every turn, which is, in some cases anyway, which is not the usual for these campaigns. Like, I had long matches with Corfarron.
Really?
Yeah. I played him really safe, though, because I wanted to not get surprised late.
Well, as someone who plays a lot of Warbearers, they had nothing to surprise with. I know most people, they finished the entire campaign with 0 loss. Even the last one, while Lorgar in his Reckoning form is quite powerful, he has bot AI. So it's first try for most players. Yeah, at least people who are remotely aware of what the Wordbearers do. If you go in completely blind of what they do, Demon Host will confuse you. But if you know what's happening, you just won't let them have a board.
Yeah, I wanted them to have... I wanted Corferin to have no anything out and not worry about it, because I feel like Ultramarines have like bad burst potential for the most part. So I'm like, okay,
they have bad burst potential when piloted by a person. See, that's the key part about a lot of these campaigns. Where you look at the faction, like if we're fighting Raven Guard, that's not going to be that big of a deal because it's piloted by a bot who, while it may be programmed to know the basics of Raven Guard, doesn't know combos. It's just going to put out cards if it can cost to do them, or rather, if it can afford to do them. For example, a Lortera bot turn 1 will always use ability followed into Ursa Claw followed into counterattack. It will happen 100% of the time if it goes first, or sorry, goes second.
Definitely. I think I sense that they've tweaked a couple of the bots for the PvE campaigns, but they haven't tweaked them so much that they're good.
No.
No.
There have been there have been several that I've won because of the bot logic, where like it's like the Ferris Manus one was like,
oh man, that should have been hard.
It should have been hard, and then I got the Cacophony squad down, and he was like up like 8 or 9 attack, but then on top of that, what his bot logic was doing, he had no board, and it was me and the Cacophony squad, so he would drop a troop, and then he would attack with his warlord into his troop. So it was like if he wouldn't have dropped the troop and then just attacked, that wouldn't even be an issue. He would have either hit me or would have hit the Cacophony. But for 3 turns he did that. It's like, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah. My Cacophony Squad experience was I dropped the Cacophony Squad and he nailed me anyway.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't feel like the AI's gotten even remotely better. They seem like the same, oblivious to how the game actually works, but it read a manual on what the mechanics do.
You know, I would like to see more bots, though. We haven't in game. Like, we haven't seen
like new named ones.
New decks. I want to see. We've got so many new warlords now. Like, let's get some. Bots for these.
Maybe the bots ran out of deck slots. Is that possible, Scott?
Listen, you can have so many deck slots for these bots. You can, they should have premium cards in their decks too.
Oh, that'd be fun if they actually just tossed in random.
Like if every bot had a premium deck, like a full blinged out premium deck. Oh, I need to do that. I need to send some PMs. Like, give the bots premium decks.
Well, since I'm technically a member of the TO group without actually being a TO, I can say premium cards are really hard to code. They're right now just trying to figure out how to give them to players as tournament rewards.
Well, that's true. And also, I mean, we kind of got an update today that kind of tried to tweak and make the premium cards visible, because you can get them in a crate, but if you were to share the crate to show somebody before today, they're just looking at regular cards. They wouldn't see that, oh, which card is the premium card or whatnot. So now that's been fixed. So yeah, I can understand that, but we get the coding fixed. Let's get some premium bot decks.
Get some whale bots.
Oh yeah, and then people will just be like freaked out, and then they'll be like, oh wait a minute, it's a bot. And then the bot is like Duquesne. And they'll be like, no!
This is an obscenity!
Well, I would say they would be freaked out.
Yeah, the bot spent 30,000 gems to get premium bad.
Listen, these bots have done so much work. They've played this game longer than your 5-skull War Masters out there. Let's give them the bling that they deserve.
I'll reward the bots when they do their orders of operations correctly.
That's true.
So, like,
Angron bot is still sad.
Buff the troop first.
His troops.
And attack.
Yes.
Well, you gotta remember, these are the same bots who will kill their own troops with damage tactics for absolutely no reason other than they could afford to play it, and it was the first target they randomly chose.
Yeah, there's a new problem where a lot of the new cards from the new set, the bots will drop like an heirloom squad, and for some reason it's coded to shoot their warlord most of the time.
Well, that's not even a problem with the new set, because I've watched them use harsh discipline on their 1 HP troops and those are 2 original set cards. They just don't know, like, they must randomly choose what they use their stuff on.
Yeah, we could probably like spend a long time documenting all their really poor behaviors, like not being able to see that your warlord has survivor, dropping troops and then attacking with Angron, buffing a troop after they've attacked with it. Just you name it, they do it badly. It's a good learning tool to figure out if a deck is like borderline competent, but you got to get a deck out in front of people or you're not going to really learn how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if a person's not fighting it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the bot's going to fall for the dumbest tricks. Also, bot decks, they don't seem set up right. Like, they're lacking, je ne sais quoi. Like, most auto-needed cards, like, auto includes. I've never been Melgatored by a bot, now that I say that out loud.
I've seen a bot Melgator.
Yeah.
I've seen a bot Melgator its own troop.
I think the thing is when some of these bot decks were made, because like Angron bot doesn't have any Galaxy and Flames cards. Not that he needs them. He really needs better cards in his deck. But I mean, just as an example, like they made that deck and it's been out there ever since. Like they don't go back and update some of these decks, and they really should, because there's some neutral cards that would make them a little bit more edgy and competitive. But we digress. We're talking about Space Wolf. We got into bots. We got to talk about the balance patch. We're a half hour in here.
Big bot opinions.
Yes.
All right.
We should do a whole episode on bot logic and just like really hammer them.
We have to get Mr. Everguild in for that, though.
Yes, we should. That should be like an Everguild like intervention on the bots.
Please.
Let's get Space Cat to guest on that episode.
I really want Dark Angle.
Night Lords, Late Night Lords.
Late Night Lord's pretty good too.
He's pretty good.
I want all the bots.
Let's get all the bots together. Like, let's just have them like have some text to speech going on here. That could be a fun episode.
Horrific.
Tell us, Angron Bot, how do you feel?
It's just screaming.
But the Space Wolves got a balance patch April 1st. As I said, it's been a week actually to the day, as of this recording, that it's been out. They were due for a patch. This may not be the last patch they get, but it hits some cards, primarily focusing on most of the warlords, but some other cards as well. So
they touched almost all the warlords except Russ.
Yeah. Which is
pretty
good. They didn't need to. I don't think they needed to touch Russ.
No. Russ is fine because if you tip him too close to the edge, bad things start happening.
Yeah. So let's go through the patch here. We'll go through all the cards and then we can talk about it because I think there's a lot to talk about, especially if we get into warlords and some of the pack strategies. So Thorleif Wolfguard, so a high cost card that's got its attack just up from 7 to 8. Ice and Steel is now a 1 cost card. Still does the same thing, which is nice. Fenris lowered its cost to 3 from 4. Wolf Spirit now is a 5 cost card, but instead of adding Curse of Wolfen, it used to give the Astartes into your hand, and they give you a Curse of Wolfen to your deck. It now just reduces the cost of all those generated Astartes by 1. So you're getting 3 Astartes of cost 4 or less, reduced by 1. So you're getting 3 Astartes for 3 energy cheaper, basically, which is not bad for a cost of 5, though. Is it comparable?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna miss the old Curse of Wolfen.
Well, we're gonna get to Curse of Wolfen.
Yeah.
Fateful Weird now actually gives Survivor for every troop drawn instead of tactic, so it swings the other way. The Underverse, another card that wasn't getting played, went from a 1 cost card to a 6 cost card. However, it now puts in play 2 friendly Astartes that died this game. Curse of the Wolfen is now a give +2/+2 in Berserk to a friendly troop. Okay. But it also gets, if it is an Astartes, give it Survivor 1.
Is it Survivor 2?
No, Survivor 1. Yeah.
Okay, one's still good.
It only needs to be 1 if it's on a warded troop, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a mini Chosen of the Sigillate.
Yeah. Giger Fellhand now has pack. He gets +1/+0 on the next attack this turn. So he still has the 2 energy deal damage equal to his attack, but his pack attack is really where it's at. Oath or Weirdmake has his ability changed. Its cost was lowered to 1. But it doesn't give ward anymore, so he's just giving +2 health. However, he also has resolution is now gone, and it's now pack heal 1 to a friendly troop. Bolvi Greybeard now has his battle honor instead of gain ward. It's now pack. He doesn't have battle honor at all. He just has pack. Give ward to a friendly unit until your next turn. Bjorn gets a special card, Einherjar. I probably butchered that pronunciation, Einherjar.
I think it's Einherjar.
Einherjar, I'll take that. That sounds right.
They tend to be wise.
Yeah, which is a 2 energy card that basically gives him a choose a Space Wolf starting and put in your hand. So it's kind of like Raldoron's tactic, but instead of Blood Angel's tactics, it's Space Wolf troops. And then apparently they did Oath or Weirdmake's voiceovers, all done, completely new remotes, which a lot of people seem to be like up in the arms about. I had no idea there was these diehard Oath or Weirdmake fans out there.
Here's the biggest problem with it, Scuff. They put a Vox filter on a man without a helmet. It's a reverse of Ingo Peck.
Maybe he's got a tracheotomy, and he's a Space Wolf. He's been in battle. He's got the voice box.
I disagree with you.
I just didn't know that I could miss COVID Weirdmake that quickly. He's so much more character when he was just wheezing through every line like he was on his last breath. It wasn't great. It was weird, frankly, but it had character to it.
I mean, if you had to do COVID Weirdmake or Emphysema Branthan, who would you pick?
I love Emphysema Branthan. I love him so much. He's my second favorite behind Lorgar himself. He's just such a badass. So
he's a cool character, but his voice hurts me.
Yeah, it should hurt because it's going to hurt when he comes after you.
Yeah, by
really
healing
gonna-
his board. He's not
he's gonna-
offensive.
He is
He's
one of
gonna
those.
make you feel like he feels.
He's one of those ones where, like, you hear the voice and your throat hurts. I get the same effect when I'm watching Christian Bale in The Dark Knight.
Batman.
Where is he? Why?
Where's my legendaries?
How are you supposed to do this for 3 hours?
It's not
That's
the
impressive.
packs that you need. It's the packs that you get.
Right. All right. Kind of going down the list here. Bjorn sucks. He's not.
Yeah.
He's kind of living on like that old lifestyle of like pre-patch Argyle Tall, where he's doing 1 damage with a conditional, and it's just nowhere near.
I wouldn't compare him to Argyle Talls, because Argyle Talls was a very specific like ping build. I'd compare him more to Tarek, but somehow worse.
Yeah,
And that's really what's impressive.
Tarek should really be updated to be more like Argyle Tall. That's a good model for Tarek, and it's a good model for Bjorn.
I wouldn't agree with that, because he's still very different. Like, you're not really supposed to use Argyle Tall, original or current one, as like a source of primary damage. It's more of a ping. I think he should be, more compared to, I don't want to say Loken either. No, I just don't think you want to go that route. I think really they just need their ability cost lowered to 1. They're not 2 energy worth of value. That would help both of them out tremendously.
Yeah.
Or even in Born's case, his entire character's shtick doesn't work with his Legion. He is so evident of first year, or not really first year, because Space Wolves didn't come out first year. What was it, second year after beta?
I believe it was year 2. Prospero expansion was after Isfahan 5 and Extermination.
Yeah. So, nice old year 2 style event warlords, which if you look back at most of them, they don't work in the current game. They're nice. A lot of them would be fun to have. You can't say they'd work.
Yeah. I mean,
I
his ability...
really want a day where we can get Pios in the game. Please, come on.
Yeah. Argyle Tall, they updated him a little bit. I don't think anybody still plays the Argyle version of Argyle Tall. But
well, I mean, I've played him quite a bit in both
good. Are you doing well?
No. His ability change didn't matter. He's still just a ping warlord. You're not really using it for damage, because you can't afford to. It costing more means you can't afford to use it most turns, because you got to play your troops on curve as word bearers or you lose. So, if anything, it kind of just killed him faster, which isn't saying much, because he wasn't alive to begin with.
They're struggling to make Argyle really do stuff as Argyle. So, Argyle. Yeah, so just somewhere between these 3 things, just get Bjorn to a state where I'd ever want to use his ability most of the time.
Well, he's getting Survivor 1 when he kills a troop, right?
Yeah, he should get Survivor 2 at least.
If he was 1, he's a 1 energy ability to do 1 damage. If he gets Survivor 2, that's all the tweak that he needs. I have fun playing with him. I played with him quite a bit as soon as I got him. And it makes your opponent think. Just like when you're just very similar when you're playing Raldoron, you're like, oh, I don't want to leave something with 1 health that he can get a Survivor. It's not a lot. But when you're already the Space Wolf faction and you have access to so much flanking, it's not hard to use that ability once or twice in a game to stay alive for the extra turn. The problem is that's exactly it. Like, you might use his ability once or twice a game. It's certainly not going to be great when you're facing a warlord who can deal 2 to 3 damage to you, and for 1 energy you can deal 1 damage to them. It feels like an unfair trade-off.
Yeah, it's far too slow.
Yeah.
It's just like the top of the game is speed meta, and this is just not even close.
Yeah, his pacing does not go the same way. And in the same hand, I mean, we can kind of circle that back to Bolvi, because I think Bolvi suffers the same with regards. Like, I think his pack is a very strong pack, and I played some games with him to test it out. And when he wards a board of 3 or 4 troops, your opponent is sad. Like, it doesn't matter what their health is at, doesn't matter what their attack's at. They can't do anything. He's warded, and next turn he can, like, there's a point in the game at about 6 energy where he can then use his ability. No longer has to attack. His job is just to buff the 2 troops next to him. They attack. They ward everything. that isn't already warded, and you do that and you rinse and repeat, and if your opponent doesn't have some flanking to take care of those warded troops, then they're going to get bigger, stronger. Like, it's great, but it is so slow compared to Weirdmake, who just is automatically healing things that are attacking, so they're healing themselves basically for attacking, especially if your board is a full health board to begin with. Or Giger, who literally doesn't have to use an ability at all and can speed up the game faster, which is very similar to the Rust style. So Bolvi, I think if his ability cost 1 to buff the 2 adjacent, or if his ability is going to be 2 but he can buff the board, I would rather see that, and that would make the pacing better, but it still wouldn't be great for him. But it certainly would, like, really, I basically make it worth it.
Yeah, he's tough to use. He's not completely horrible. I don't think he's going to enter the meta, but he's at least more interesting now.
Yeah, I think the only reason he'd be in the meta is if, like, there's a lot of flank targets and people are using a lot of targetable attacks. But because people use defensive satellites and informant network and all that fun stuff, it's great for the end game or for a couple of key abilities. You know, it's nice to shut down Santar.
Yeah. You might troll Defenders of Caliban pretty well, depending. So, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about the Defenders of Caliban last week, and they're vulnerable to all the flanks. You know, Voraxes and the Hunter squads that are coming out, the 2-3s. You got the punitive strikes. It's just like fuel. Like, give them Jaegers for the wolves to beat up. And then on top of that, they can't ping them. They can't. Luther can't steal them. Like, the wolves. I mean, we're talking about the warlords here because I think Bolvi and Bjorn are on the list. Giger is on the list. Weirdmake's on the list. We got to talk about them to some degree. I think Giger has been the star child. Everybody's on the hype train. The bandwagoning for Giger Fellhand all of a sudden out of nowhere.
He's very well. I wouldn't say it's out of nowhere. They gave him a lot.
They basically, I mean,
by doing very little, they gave him a lot.
He runs, I don't want to say similar, but parallel to Gorborn, basically.
Yeah, he's very very much improved. He's probably the best of the warlords of this group now.
Yeah, he's the best spaceman now. That's for certain.
Yeah, he's fantastic. You'll just get a giant pack bonus. Pretty much, it just plays itself if you're flanking. Just straightforward, just gigantic damage.
And the best part is his attack is based on his next attack. So if you just use your ability, it never goes down, which is very fun to do.
Well, it
doesn't go down. It's until your turn, yeah. But I mean, like, in your turn, if you can get yourself Bloodthirst, you can use your ability, then hit for some maximum damage, which is really nice.
Yep.
And there is ways to get Bloodthirst. He does have a card with his face on it.
The Blood Claw is just like has him written all over it, literally.
Yeah. That's a finisher card now.
Well, I mean, it really always was. It was kind of like Proto's Corrin's Favor, but only they could use it. I guess less Proto and just Corrin's Favor.
But, everyone was putting it on Russ, if that, and now you can actually use Gegor seriously. So it's like night and day now.
Well, people forget that he had some unique interactions too. Like, I mean, here's this warlord that nobody's been playing for a while, so they get to experience it. Even though he's been in the game, he's just not been desirable at all. And
nobody's been playing with good reason.
Everybody wants to
take warlord of Desert, with a useless ability, kind of hurts the play.
Now, talking about other cards that people want to take to the dance, that were already being taken to the dance, Curse of the Wulfen. I mean,
I like this change.
Currently, as of we're talking here, because again, there may be other cards to come in another patch that touch on some troops or some other things, maybe that need some adjustments. But the Curse of the Wulfen, you throw that on like. It was already something that you would put in your deck, especially if you were Othar and you've got the Georgian Stalker squad. You're like, all right, cool. If I get these two cards together, this is gonna be a great time. And if you get it together now, it's a really good time because then they've got Survivor 1. You throw it on Baelai, boom, he's got Survivor 1. What? Like, and he's +2/+2. Like, it doesn't even have to be a warded troop, but when it's on a warded troop, it is superior. But if you put it on The 2/2 drop pod guys. I love the first turn. You didn't kill them? Cool. Now they're a 4/4 with Survivor 1, and when they attack, I get another one to put out. I mean, like, it's just a great card to put in the deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just value.
You could put it on Jurgen Stalker Squad, one of your flankers. You're great.
Yep. And Survivor 1, you're going to get more out of it. You're getting the 2 extra health, 2 extra attack. So I mean, I like the change. I do feel like it's like, I don't know why you did that. I mean, I guess the backlash was not great. I never really cared for okay, put it back in my deck. Thanks. I mean, that wasn't something I really wanted. But like you said, it is a cheaper version of the Sigil It's Chosen, and we've actually seen that played out in a couple other factions as of late, where it looks like they're trying to make that comparable. Sigil It's Chosen was always kind of like, oh, this card does so much, but if you look at the speed and pacing of the faction, it kind of has to compensate for some things. This seems like it's a little low cost for a faction that has so many flanking troops. But at the same time, most of those are low health things that if you get out early, you might not have beyond turn, a turn. So this is a way to give you more longevity out of them. Although that Bloodthirst troop with Oathir, it's just like, okay, it's a 5/6, and it's just going to heal itself for 2. Sure, why not? Like,
yeah.
Sorry
you didn't have a word for that.
Yeah, sorry you didn't have a flanker response to it turn 2.
Same time, I feel like the Space Wolves kind of deserve some loving. They didn't get much in a while.
They do, yeah. I like the Underverse. I like how that is just in the same way as Mount Deathfire, as well as kind of Wolf Spirit. Wolf Spirit's a little different because it's just generating, whereas the Underverse, like, I've got one of those in my decks. I like the idea of the card to begin with. I like the special effects that they had for that card. It just never worked. I did a meme deck with the original Underverse with the Hannon's Mortar Squad. And that was the best I could make of it, and I got to win one time out of like 13 games, and it just was not a good thing. But now when I'm like, oh, you got rid of I've had 2 troops out, and I've lost them both, and one of them was Jurgen, and one of them was Baelai. Guess what's coming back? Like, cool.
My biggest problem with that card is it doesn't tell you how many troops have died this game for some particular reason.
Yeah, unlike that.
I feel like it's just minor.
It tells you.
Yeah, I think that might be minor, and they might fix it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Deathfire works a little bit differently, too, in that I think you have to pull from the list of things that are dead.
Yes.
And if you run out of dead things on your second one, then you pull nothing, essentially.
Right. If there's nothing in the pool, it's out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to be a little bit careful with it, and you got to be, strategic about what you're putting in your deck. Because if you pull out a bunch of nonsense, it's going to be like, oh my god. But the other thing about Underverse is that I've noticed that the stuff popping out from it gets its flank back, which is not what I'm used to with things that I pull off of abilities.
I think that works for everything like that. If it's not like a rally gain that happens.
Like if you've got Father Decay and he's using his ability and you get some flanking troops or fast troops,
Yep.
Excellent.
The Sons of Horus is a 4 energy now, second wave. They had come out with fast.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Because I've noticed weird behavior with that before. So,
I wouldn't call it weird. That's intended because it's this flat trait on the card. If it was rally gain it, rally specifies playing from hand. Underverse doesn't play from hand. It just puts him into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about this is that it's this card archetype of resurrecting troops that kind of came into the fore with Mount Deathfire, and what's the other card that resists an old troop? It's like a 5 or 6E. I forget the name of it. Resilience.
That's 4 energy.
These cards between the Underverse and Wolf Spirit, you've got 2 miniature Mount Deathfires, and that's pretty damn
miniatures
good.
Miniature in the worst ways. It costs more and it's less troops.
Yeah, but you have 2 of them, and it's not bad. So,
what it's really good
Curse of the Wolfspawn isn't really grabbing your dead, though. That's just making more to die.
But both of those cards serve a really good purpose for the Space Wolves, which is sometimes running out of troops whether you've played them or you just have got a low hand, Wolf Spirit can give you some that are in the pool of flankers or bloodthirsts or just some good bodies, and Underverse is going to give you back stuff that you've actually played, so you should have a good idea of whether that's a flanker or a frontline or a ward troop. So just being able to play those cards to get more cards back at a better value than what they were. Like, yes, Wolf Spirit went up in cost by 1, but the fact that you're getting all those Astartes reduced by 1 makes a big difference, because that means the next turn you probably could play 2 to 3 of them, whereas before you might play 1. And that's a big swing.
Yeah.
You know, Curse of the Wulfen, it costs 6, but if you're getting back, it doesn't matter. It's that is not a cost reduced card. So if you're playing Curse of the Underverse, late game you're like, oh, I'll bring back my Gunnarsson, who's a 6 cost card, and maybe a Jurgen that's 11 cost for troops that you're back, both of them with ward, one of them with frontline, and all of a sudden you paid 6 to get 11 energy worth of troop. That's a great value too.
Yeah, and Wolf Spirit, you if you end up pulling a Jorten or a Bolvi on Wolf Spirit, friggin' fantastic, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and you probably will pull at least something halfway decent. If not one of them, you'll pull a flanker.
I like the fact. I think it's at least a card to consider putting in your deck, especially if you just want some more bodies. It's not required. I think the Underverse is a smart card, at least as one of.
Yeah. It's a lot better than its old iteration.
Yes.
Which, while was unique, wasn't necessarily good.
Just didn't work. Like, the whole point of having them on the board is to have them on the board, not in your deck.
If it grabbed some random troops from your graveyard and put them back at the deck at 0 cost, I could see them useful.
Yeah.
But before GIF, I think we had we had 2 cards that worked on graveyard. Wasn't it Revenant and Father Decay? I can't think of it like any others. Except, no, wait, we had Kerberos come into the game. So they've slowly started adding graveyard mechanics. I like where we're going.
Yeah,
It's
we still just can't view it, but it's there.
Yeah, we can't view it, but we know it exists.
I like the change to Fateful Weird. The cost hasn't changed. You can actually get Survivor 3. It's really high. I wouldn't play it still, but it does give an option, and it does reward you for putting the cards in your deck that you're going to put in your deck anyways, because most Wolf decks aren't really tactic heavy. They're more troop heavy. I mean, you're going to have tactics, but you're not going to have 15 plus tactics.
On some of these factions, they're promoting you going so troop heavy that I sometimes think, like, maybe I should just pack, 26 troops and then cards that bring back troops, and then see how just putting in constant pressure, how far that can get me. And
that's how the Nomus.
I was going to say, that sounds like a Salamander's deck.
That's how Nomus runs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ice and Steel.
I was pretty sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Good. I was going to say, I was pretty sure every Nomus game was an infantry or Astartes on board at all times.
Every turn. I just drop it.
It just happens.
Yep.
They really want you to go into that mission/troop meta. Less mission, high level for most factions, but if you want to play mission, just have a gaggle of endless troops, and you'll probably get it.
That's how most of them works. But Ice and Steel, I think it's called yours.
Yeah, Ice and Steel being lowered from 1, I think that's a fair, because it's a +1/+1 to all your troops, which is great in Bolvi when you want to be able to use his ability, but you don't like earlier turns. It's not great.
You want to use his ability, but you don't want to use his ability.
Well, you would when you want to use his ability at 5, but you've got a 4-cost troop, so you can play the 4-cost troop, play the 5. Maybe you're buffing your Nicer Scout as well, and then the next, then you can really get going. It's not bad. It's not bad later either. Is it necessary? It's a buff card, but I mean, if you're playing the mission, you're going to get Ice and Steel every attack pretty quickly.
I doubt, in a serious 30-card deck, I would put Ice and Steel in.
I've toyed with it, but I really haven't found it as useful, except for Bolvi when it's a pacing thing, because Othar doesn't need it. His ability, just giving him health and longevity with that pack is fine, and I really don't see the other 2 guys using anything other than just flankers to help them with their pack
there's so many other ways to buff on most of the warlords, or just with other cards and the troop meta kind of is like, well, I could play Ice and Steel, or I could play on Curve, and I might do better playing on Curve.
9 times out of 10.
It's tough.
Yeah, definitely not 9 out of 10.
If it was a 40-card deck, definitely. But if it was a 40-card deck, everything else would change.
I think if you're looking for a troop buff tactic, and you, regardless of your warlord, regardless of warlord choice, just put Curse of the Wolfen in. Like, it just is going to be better, hands down, every single time. It may be only for one troop, but you should have a troop on the board fairly easy. Whereas Ice and Steel, like if you've got one troop, you're getting +1/+1. The odds of you having multiple troops on the board to really make use of a +1/+1 to 3 or 4 troops, not as likely as like turn 2, Curse of Wulfen. You have now gained superiority. You've now dominated the board just by playing that on a troop, especially if it's got ward. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it's not like they got a short supply.
What? How are you supposed to get warded troops in Space Wolves?
I don't know, Scuff. You might need a miracle. You might need to activate. You might actually need to play Bolvi. Actually, maybe.
I'm telling you, when that Bolvi meta hits, it's like
if the day Bolvi meta hits,
I think
Bjorn will also be
you
meta.
give Bolvi, like I said, you lower his ability to 1, or you make it affect the whole board. And let's bring back new Ornitov's Barge with Bolvi, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
At the same time, let's just double down and let Bjorn deal 3 damage instead of 1 for energy.
1 for 1, gain Survivor 2, or 1 for 1 if target survives, gain Survivor 2. One of the two.
Well, that's a saying. He is 1 for 1, gain Survivor 2.
No, he's Survivor 1. I thought. Is he gain Survivor 2?
No, he's Survivor 2. I thought he was Survivor 1 too, going Survivor 1 as well. Going
the game.
I just checked because I realized I was wrong, but. Even with that, he's still not good, which really says a lot about him.
He's okay.
If I'm being honest.
He's just he's okay. I don't dislike him. I don't think that he's bad.
Like him more. I would like him more in a different legion that supported his playstyle.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Because really he's just an optional ping if you got nothing else to do, or hey, my warlord has got like 4 survivor now. Like he whereas everybody else has got, Giger and Othar are supporting troops, or not Giger, Othar and Bolvi are supporting troops. Russ and Giger are taking it to the enemy. Bolvi,
and they're relying on their troops.
I mean, I won't sweat it. It's flavorful. It's very thematic. It fits Bjorn's shtick, right? He doesn't have a spot. He survives. He's got that weird. He's got the weird. Basically, and Russ wants him to hang out next to him, and he doesn't quite know what you're supposed to do, but you're supposed to be by me. And everybody else that he's fought with has either died or gone the other ways, and he somehow keeps on ticking, and he doesn't even know. He doesn't even get it. Like maybe that's. I mean, it's thematic. It's lore accurate.
His Norse chi is all screwed up.
Yeah, he's like, listen, all I know to do is survive. I might ping you for 1, but I'm still here.
He deserves it for having a weird mangled up arm. I'm just saying.
He's got a weird baby.
Later on, that's the least of his problems.
I mean, he's a dreadnought now. He's pretty good.
He is, if there's any dreadnought that I have to say, he is the dreadnought.
Oldest, well, Tancred's still up there. You can't forget Tancred. He was a son of Dorn, technically. He came from his bloodline. And he's a good boy.
You can't hear me shake my head, but I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the opposite. I'm hamming it up for my boy Tancred. Tancred's a good boy. He killed Tau. I mean, that's good. I think
Bjorn is named Tancred. What's not to like?
Exactly. And he talks to
you're
the third
confusing
person.
orcs with that name. I mean, the orcs are like Tancred. Yes, it goes faster.
We also have a traitor card in this game named Tancred, but we're not going to question that.
No, don't. Let's not go.
And I distinctly remember a Chaos Legionary in one of the Dan Knit books named Tancred as well. So we're not going to ask any questions on why the names go the way they are, but they do.
Don't ask any questions. Don't tell no lies.
No, I disagree with where this is going.
Well, I mean, the Space
Yeah.
Force, I mean, so the patch is not
It
bad.
did what it should have done. It mainly touched their tactics because a lot of their troops, I want to say majority, are just in a good place.
Yeah. It's
Don't
hard to
touch
argue
some of
with
them.
their stats, their cost, and the fact that the ones that have a ward or a certain pack are fine. I'm more happy.
I don't think any of them list ward or like understated.
Yeah.
There may be like one down. That's not major.
No, I think the biggest wins here, obviously, with the Warlord changes, because that's when I look at the Space Wolves. I'm looking at the Warlords that I don't play and why I don't play them. It's not because of the other cards and the factions, because the Warlords are the way they are. And I think even changing to Weird making him do something different, he still is effective. He may not be able to ward himself or others anymore, but it doesn't matter if you come out swinging pretty hard with the right cards early on.
The lower to 1 energy helped that a lot.
Yeah.
Or I'm pretty sure it lowered.
Yeah,
it did.
lower to 1, yeah.
And even if you never use that, he's just so much faster. So I just feel like they moved away from like waiting around meta to like just having him work really well quickly.
And to go with it, I mean, they still have their counterattack too, which was always an annoying play. If he goes second, he can heal 2 for free, as well as his ability, as well as possibly play a Curse of Wulfen. So it just makes it even harder. Like, you almost want him to go first if you're facing against him. Almost.
You really don't like Space Wolves on curve though, so it's kind of like
it's a hard game, but you know what? That's the way it's got to be.
Yep.
So as the patch is, as it stands, as we've had a week to digest, a week to play, how would you rank it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Ooh, I'm only going to give it this answer for a very particular reason. I'm giving it a 5 because it's not done yet. There's got to be more to come because this doesn't feel like a finished patch. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm the only one. It feels like there's just something missing. It's a bit more because it's helping, but there's still some boys left in the dark. I don't think we're going to see more than Geiger going crazy on meta.
I think maybe a 7, just because there's a lot of good here. We have more choices at Warlord for this group that used to be like a 2 Warlord faction. But there's stuff missing. Bjorn is still kind of a mess. They did nothing with one of the worst legendaries in the game over on Corpse Swan. And I'm like, why?
He's a bit of the missing I was referring to.
Yeah.
Not specifically, but he is definitely one of them. Their late game didn't change because it's not playable.
Yeah, I don't know that, like, you know, Sigvar Squad, Thrill of the Hunt, those are not very good cards. But I don't know. There's always going to be like some underwhelming cards in every group so far.
Mm-hmm. Sigur's is the 2 energy, right?
Yeah,
That's
they're
2 energy 4 attack. I think it has
2, and they're 4 attack on your turn.
They have a very particular niche with Othar, who can now play them on 3 energy as these 2 4s that are 4 4s on their turn. They have their niche. They don't need to be like great, but I do like them as a gimmick. Unlike Corpse Swan, whose entire gimmick is making you lose the game.
I just feel like, you know, just play something else on that energy tier and don't try and jam a square peg into a round hole. So that's my thought. Like, I feel like if he was 4-2 all the time, great. He still wouldn't be that great, but he'd be usable.
I feel like that the 2/2 drop pod is their best 2 drop. Like, I mean,
easily.
Granted, I mean, don't get me wrong, the 2/3 flanker are super key, but like turn 1 play, man, that's a great, like, they have to have an answer or you're going to get some bodies going.
Yeah. I love that card so much. Hental, I think his name is.
Yep.
Hentai Squad out here.
Hentai Squad. He's like coming at you with tentacles and Japanese schoolgirls look out.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Hey guys, welcome to the Warp Chatter podcast. No. Yeah, it's a really good turn 1, because, I mean, your flanker's not going to flank nothing. That's just a waste of a turn. So these guys, you drop them, Lehman Russ is getting free troops.
Sorry,
You're gonna have to deal
I'm
with
just
it.
laughing at Hentai Squad. I can't stop.
You've never heard it called that?
No. I'm just getting an image that I don't know if I like it or not, but it's.
Why'd you paint this in your head? Why'd you paint this? I don't know what your image is, but mine is probably obviously worse. Because I'm thinking of Space Wolf 34, and I
mine
don't
could be
it.
like a DVD cover that is not appropriate.
A DVD cover you saw at a video store that
No,
you
I haven't
by
seen
your
it at a
parents.
video store. It's just one that I would like.
No, I just mean like one you would see at a video store that you see with your parents, but you don't mention to
Well,
them.
you have to go down the right aisle, and there's usually a closed door for that kind of stuff. So
closed door or weird colored beads.
It's
Tell me you
sometimes
seen one
like,
of those.
what's behind here? Why are there movies in here? Don't go in there, Timmy. Don't do it.
Sorry, kid, you can't go past those doors.
Hentai Squad 2, Revenge of the Awoooo. What's this?
If that's not the title of this episode, I'm going to be very upset.
I've been toying with some titles, but I left that one out.
Sadly,
but getting back on track and away from the Hentai Squad.
Yeah. We're talking about, last thing we mentioned were 2 drops for Lehman Russ, and that's a good 2 drop, or the Space Wolves in general. We covered most of the major points. Scuff, what's your rating? Did you say your rating? I don't think you did.
I don't know. Did I hear your guys' rating? What was your rating, Tryhard?
Yeah, 7.
Mine is an extremely scientific 7.
Okay, Axel, you're going with a 5 because you feel like it's
not
done.
It's not. It didn't touch the late game. Something they still drastically hurt in, because they really have like one option, and it's Gunter or Gunner.
Gunnarsson, yeah,
Gunnarsson. It's really their only late options out.
I don't want to score it a 6. Because I really think, quite frankly, I think that the patch, there are a couple cards that's like Ice and Steel, okay, you know what, Fenris? We didn't even talk about Fenris, but Fenris for 3, cool.
Did we?
No. Fenris is heal and gives everything ward for 3. That's cool. That's better than Alaxis Nebula.
That's pretty good. That's another version of Nostromo and Deliverance.
Yeah.
But
finally, I love it. I love when the planets get to be playable, you know?
Yeah.
People might have different versions than me, but like, I don't see people playing Alaxis Nebula. So
it depends on the meta.
It is a meta dependent card. Yeah.
It's an answer card. For example, if Raven Guard were to drop, you would see less answer. It's one of those types of cards.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Nebula was very common during any type of burn meta. I ran it a couple times simply because I didn't want to get lethal.
But I like any patch for me that touches Warlords. I like, especially when it's multiple Warlords that aren't getting play. I like the, Fateful Weary getting some touch. Wolf Spirit, Underverse, Curse of the Wolfen was the one thing where I was like, I'm not gonna dislike it, but I certainly think it might have been a little bit too heavy-handed for that one card, given what it's going on most of the time.
It wasn't a bad card.
Name another troop that has got Ward and Survivor.
I can't.
Yeah.
With Ward and Survivor.
You can name ones that have got Ward and Shield, or Shield and Survivor, but you can't name one that's got Ward and Survivor.
The only one with Shield and Survivor we can think of is a tank. Which tell me how Survivor works for a tank.
They're tanky. That's the whole.
It's a durable tank.
They can take it.
There's that Telemann Dreadnought too.
Telemann Dreadnought's
got it. Him. Well, he's a god man.
Nolan has got Shield and Ward. But you don't get Ward and Survivor. And just given that, even though it's Survivor 1, that goes a ways. Especially with
Survivor 1's the difference between a flanker killing your troop and then you having to hit in your face.
Especially with some of these ones that can heal or having the hit. So, I mean, just in general for me, like, that's the one where I'm like, ooh, geez. But I don't want to score it a 6 because I really do like it. I'm going to go with a 7 as well. I think it's not bad. To go.
I don't disagree with you guys.
Yeah, to go on with your point, Axel. Peeling back the curtain here a little bit. There is a chain of messages with most of the content creators and every guild community manager that we've been trying lately in the last month or two to kind of coordinate things a little bit better. For those who aren't aware, maybe haven't noticed. Some of the videos that are coming out or streams that are coming out are featuring certain things or talking about certain things. That's no coincidence. We're trying to time that a little bit better on our side and get some of those things determined when they should be revealed, if there's a video that can come up, or if somebody can do a stream with the new warlord who's out, or hey, we've got this patch coming out here, this is what we're going to be talking. So we're trying to coordinate that as well as promote those content creators who are doing those streams. So there is a communication chain, but it's limited to that scope to some degree. And there was a smidge of a mention when we were talking about this balance patch. This one is more focused on fixing the warlords. And then it's going to see if the troops need more of a touch-up. So there may be more to come with the Space Wolves if they need it.
Maybe the late game.
If they need it.
Because I'm not to say that their late game is bad. Like, there's a lot of really good troops. Their new gift Dreadnought is actually really nice because he's a frontline Dreadnought.
Oh, yeah.
With Ward. But the key problems they have with them is getting to it. They either win or lose by then because they're such a Hail Mary faction.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Corpse One would be working if they were like a slower faction that could survive that long.
Or if Corpse One had a rally effect instead of the pay ability, like play it and then draw 3 cards and any troops gain fast.
That could be really good. I would like that, but I don't think they would do that for us.
Listen, I don't know either. It's a long shot.
It is a long shot. We might have to lower the amount of draws. Even 2, I'd be happy with.
That'd be fine.
Fuck, even 1 would fast.
Take a 7/5, flanker, and then now they're just a 7/5 fast. Psh, okay.
I've seen in the past that they really care about the legendaries being usable, if nothing else. So I would hope for.
I would argue that to be not true and evident of several members of the first 4 expansion, as in the Death Guard got done dirty, and so did the World Eaters in that regard. I want you to show me a game of Macer Varen being played.
if it's not a Bar Knight Legions game, I mean that's the key thing because we played
Bar Knight Legions is a whole. Bar Knight Legion is where my luck is good.
It's where your luck goes to make me angry and throw up my hands.
And then luck is a lady because she sure as hell leaves me during it.
They also take their time because I don't know how many moons we waited for Mantle of Ultramar and Horned Rement to get good.
Yep.
Well, I would say in Ultramar Mantle's case, it's now good, but not good enough to use for your 5 energy turn. So it's like in this weird limbo. You're like, man, this card's pretty solid, but I could be playing troops this turn instead of just playing this. Oh, Mantle. At least Raymond, you're all right. It got done good. I've heard some people call it a nerf. Honestly confused on what the hell they're talking about.
I don't know. That's very weird. So it's not like the first thing you should probably pick up, but it's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It gives a lot of longevity to them, and the extra psyker is just a beautiful.
You can't have a list of legendaries without something being at the bottom of it continuously. There's always going to be something that's just not cutting the edge. Corpse Swan could be better. I think they've got some decent rares and epic troops at the high end that could be better too, but at the same time, if you make them 2 better, I don't know. I mean, like, that's maybe a little bit for a faction like this, where that one edge late game they've worked hard for, should they get it that easily? Like, they have so much flanking, and now they've got so much that triggers with that flanking. Do they need anything else beyond that? I don't know. I think, as I said, we might find out that next month, depending on how the meta goes, how the month goes. Maybe they take a look and they scale back some things, or they add some more tweaks and they give us a couple other patch changes. I would be surprised if they gave us troop changes to Space Wolves, that we didn't see some counter changes and we lose things as well to balance that out, because you can't give.
Yeah, definitely. Which is why the only thing I could ever expect them to do is slight changes to their late game to make them playable. Not meta, but playable.
Yeah, I think the only thing on this list that is a late game card really is the Thorleaf Wolf Guard, and that's just an attack increase.
Yeah,
it's a mildly vexing change in itself.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what necessitates that.
Yeah, it almost
Do
feels
they
like
expect me to play it?
It's like an ancient Comac. Like, thanks. Okay,
that's cool.
Way back.
He's still gonna sit in my pile of I'm never clicking his red dot out of spite, but like, that's cool. Again, that pile is very large. For
So-
those at home, I have every single faction has a red dot on them, and that is my pride.
So I think that roughly gives us about a 6.25 collective.
Yeah.
With the caveat for Axel being, is there more to come?
If there's not more to come, then I'll give it a 6. It's good enough. If there is more to come, then I want it because the troops hurt some of them, but others are too fucking good. Why does Jorton's Stalker Squad exist? Actually, though, I'm happy to have it when I play Space Wolves, but I really need to know what was the design process.
Well, the design was like, listen,
person.
this is what you wanted in the Space Wolves, right? You want a reward.
I want it as one, but I don't want it against one.
Oh,
See, that's the key part, Scuff.
That's the important thing, right? Like it's a workhorse, man. Jordan, that is like probably the number one epic for that faction. Like maybe even more important than most of their legendaries.
It is amazing to play, awful to play against.
It is the Tully Blanchard of the Space Wolves.
Holy shit! You don't know how true that is. What you just said. You probably do. You said it.
I did say it. I know what I'm saying.
There's a deep cut reference for you.
That's it. We're going deep.
We've done deep cut references and hentai squad.
We're
Today's
all
been
over
a good
the
episode.
place. Listen, it's crazy. You don't know what's going on here. The warp
is wild.
The Eye of Terror Studios fluctuates in emotion
Cannot be blamed
between
what happens
the pleasure pits of Slanesh and the Angron / Korn wrestling rings of Korn. So
You can tell Scuff has recently watched WrestleMania.
I did not actually. I've been catching the highlights.
Really?
I did not. I was doing some other things. I don't catch Mania every year. But I
That's
do
fair.
catch the
That's fair.
highlights. I heard it was okay. I heard it was fairly
Yeah,
entertaining.
it's
I
pretty
would
good.
have liked to have seen the Stone Cold match, personally, just for like the nostalgia, and I like Kevin Owens in general, so
Yeah.
that could have been
That's pretty
entertaining. But it is what it is. Life goes
I
on.
was
There'll be
happy
other
it happened.
manias.
Yeah. My boss man let us off early Friday because he's like, it's WrestleMania weekend. Go home
man.
early because I already go home early.
If I could go to one sporting event, like if I were to get like tickets, I thought about this before, like years back. There's like contests, like win tickets to any sporting event. I go to WrestleMania. Like fuck this, fuck
It's
the
a
Super
solid
Bowl,
choice.
fuck the World Series, the Stanley Cup. Like if you're a diehard sports fan, great, good for you. But there is nothing like the spectacle of WrestleMania, and you can't change my mind. The Olympics, get out of here. Anyway,
See, I'd go to the Olympics if everyone was highly doped up because that would be the ultimate Olympic. Push
Even if you got in
humankind to a
free,
point.
even if you got in free at the Super Bowl, you'd be sitting next to rich people. So
well,
much
that's just like you can
common.
tell by when I was in like junior high school, and it's like, man, the crowd is never excited at the Super Bowl, and then it's when I realized, like, oh, they're not fans; they're just people who bought the ticket so they could say they went to the Super Bowl. They didn't know who was playing, But
Yeah.
I don't know who's wrestling at WrestleMania, but I'll tell you what, it's Wrestle fucking Mania, and it's gonna be
and people
the
go,
show of shows.
oh, wrestling's all acting. Well, that's the fun part about it. You get to watch some really good actors ham it up on stage.
That's exactly. There's nothing more entertaining sometimes than watching a good match. And you know what? If you don't understand ring psychology, we can have a different podcast. There's dozens of podcasts about that.
There's so many. There's even a show about the horrors of the.
There is.
I
and
have checked out a bit of it. It's
I'm going to
pretty good.
plug that when we get to plugs again. I mean, if you haven't watched it all, actually, you should really dive into it.
I should.
But before we get to all that, we've wrapped up the balance patch talk, the Space Wolf talk, the campaign talk, the double ticket weekend talk. Try hard when you're not playing Legions. What is it you do?
My gosh. Well, settled into
question.
my job. Honestly, there's more stuff I could talk about, but like in terms of this game that's been going on even in the last week. But generally, starting a new job, working in the industry in Las Vegas, doing a lot of stuff with some older games. I'm still on Insurgency. I still play a lot of. I'm getting back into Wreckfest. Aliens Fireteam Elite, if you're into that whole like Left 4 Dead Neo revival scene that people are trying to get off the ground with different like kind of mid-range budget games. I'm looking forward to some of those coming out. There's a few 40K ones in the offing. And just generally trying to enjoy Vegas these days.
Nice.
So
you're in.
It's still new to us.
Have you found a good gaming store? There's several out there. I know that some of them close and open all the time.
Oh God, I haven't even looked at the gaming stores yet. We get flabbergasted just going down the strip on a Friday night.
Oh yeah.
But that's like you didn't know things could get that depraved until they saw it in front of you. So, but yeah.
When you go out on a weekend, sometimes at the casinos, and you're like, wow, like I wouldn't. You forget as a local, like oh, that's right, it's Vegas. Like people have got no inhibition here. Like some of the clothes people are wearing, you're like, wow, okay, that's right, it's their Vegas. They're here for Vegas. That's right. I'm just here for the buffet, for Friday night buffet, but they're here for.
You can do it however you want. You can be genteel and eat at the buffet. You can get just completely shit-faced and just keep walking around on the street with your cup of beer. That's up to you, and anything in between. And it's Vegas is tacky, but it kind of owns tacky. It's not just incidentally, like accidentally tacky. It's like we're going full tack.
That's right. Hey, listen, this is Vegas, baby.
Yeah, so it's a wild scene at times, and other times it's remarkably restrained, considering what the reputation is.
Have you found a favorite spot yet?
Oh, in terms of like the strip or casinos in general?
Yeah, both.
Oh gosh, we're still finding our feet on like food spots, but if you're going to Vegas, I think the good option if you want all possibilities in front of you. Is probably the Venetian, or sitting like slightly off strip at like the Virgin Hotel in Vegas, which gets some shows and is a little bit less stringent on like parking fees. Venetian has no parking fees. That alone makes it kind of interesting. But it's you can eat at like their food court if that's your deal. If you're just trying to sober up, or you can eat at a 5-star steak restaurant just in the same building, which is kind of also the Caesars experience, but it's less expensive than Caesars.
Yeah.
So that's my take. I think if you want all of Vegas in one trip, you go to a top flight casino and don't sweat the small stuff, and don't do something weird like go to the circus.
Don't do don't do that. Don't do the circus.
There's a point at which getting a discount on your hotel fare has diminishing returns, and it's well before circus. So there you go.
Well, I'll give you some places to check out when we're done here recording if you got the time, because that's my bread and butter. That's he
was born in Vegas,
plus years there. So
yeah, I've heard different like. People we talk to are like, why did you move to Vegas? Or I talk to Vegas locals that are like, we never go to the strip ever.
Yes. Yeah. When you live in Vegas, like that's this, like you don't go to the strip if you're a born and bred local, and there's not too many of them, because really people Vegas is such a transient place where people come, they're there for a few years, maybe they're there for 5 to 10, but they're never really there. They're just there on the in-between to where they go next.
As a person who moved from Seattle, I see it as where Seattle was about 15 years ago. Yeah. It's starting to blow up that way.
Yeah.
So you get lots of Californians, you get lots of Seattleites, you get lots of everybody else. The job market's picking up again, finally. We're in a historic job market in terms of like opportunities if you're able to work from home, especially. And there's a lot of opportunity here, and housing prices that are already a little bit crazy, but not yet Seattle insane where absolute hovels go for $500,000. You can still move here and make a dream happen. So that's my not exactly full-throated endorsement of Vegas, I guess, but it's something.
You heard it here first, folks. Got to move to Vegas.
Move to Vegas. You won't regret it, or you will.
However, you can also regret it, because we have a scorpion infestation on my property.
You got the scorpions. So. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I talked to people who were like, I've lived in Vegas for 30 years and never seen a scorpion, including our real estate guy who got us this house we're renting. And we went, but it was 100 degrees very randomly, like sometime last week. It's been usually 80. And we went outside with the black lights.
Yes.
We counted 11 scorpions.
Oh man, I'm
Which
just like
is-
Jonesing. This is flashbacks. This is good stuff.
I'm gonna scuff
So-
late at night, 3 a.m. hands and knees, scorpion hunting.
You don't even have to be hands and
we're
knees, man.
beginning-
The light lights them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Gotta be
beginning
close
our
to grammar.
exterminatus.
Yes.
We're gonna cleanse the Xenos pretty soon.
Well,
here.
let me tell you.
So-
Let me give you a precursor. There's a couple other seasons you got to be on the lookout for, and they're both equally entertaining.
all right.
there's-
What's the best way to
there's-
kill a scorpion?
There's tarantula migrating season.
Love it.
And then there is the it's not even annual. It's like a biannual or a quarterly event where there is a grasshopper locust swarms. Depending on where you are in the valley. If you're at the edge of the valley, you're more likely to experience that.
Yeah, we're in Summerlin.
Oh yeah.
So
You guys getting any,
Yeah, we're gonna
any
get
mountain
it.
lions coming down? Are they doing that anymore?
we had a mountain lion big to do about 2 months ago.
That's-
Not on us,
Right?
but
the area?
they lost track of a mountain lion and they had to take it out.
Yeah.
So
They come down because especially when it starts getting hot or there's just no food to eat up there, they come on down to the valley, and sometimes people have got pets that are out.
Yep.
And they listen. I'm a hungry mountain lion. It doesn't matter if Fido's been with your family for so long. I'm gonna take him out. Like that's
and if you can't find a dog, plenty of scorpions.
yeah.
So there you go.
Nice. Well, Axel, I know you don't have all the fun desert stuff, but
Yeah. What have I been doing?
how do you top that?
I really can't. I mean, I got my bears because I'm in the woods, but normally they just chill at the edge of the property. If you yell at them loud enough, they leave. They're black bears. They do that. I've been reading more 40K books lately. I'm pretty much done all of Dan Abbott's stuff, and I don't know where I'm going to go from there. Party tomorrow in D&D is going to fight a worm from, or is that how you pronounce him? From Magic the Gathering. It's a Ravnica creature. You know what I'm talking about?
WYRM? Yeah, worm.
No, it's WURM.
Oh, it's
It's
still
like,
worm.
I think it's-
Yeah.
there's
It's
Yeah,
still a worm.
yeah.
You're good.
yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, the difference being one is like kind of a dragon. This is just an angry worm.
Mhm.
I don't like the party's odds because they kind of rushed into this fight without any preparation. And this is a magic one that can cast the silence spell on a 6.
Ooh.
And the party is 3 spellcasters. So, for the folks at home, silence means you can't really cast spells within 120 feet of it.
You
I
know
don't
what
like their odds.
you know what I like better than silence
What?
is cones of anti-magic from the Beholder. That's just like I don't get it.
yeah.
No magic. Period. What? That's what he does.
Well, here's the fun part. They're fighting him in an arena that's feet, and he's 120 feet of silence.
Ooh.
So they're gonna have some fun tomorrow night, and we're gonna
Nice.
see how that goes. Because that thing chunks. Their paladin, who will rush in head on like an idiot, will probably not last. It'll be entertaining. It'll be fun.
All right.
That's what I'm doing.
Very
That's
cool.
what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, I've been staying busy. I've not been getting as many videos out there. They've been trying to balance some things, work on the Twitch and the Mechanicus game. I'm almost beat the Mechanicus. I'm at 100% Awakening. I've got the last boss to play. I just barely made the secret mission. I didn't realize there was a secret mission to fight a Necron Satan.
Yeah.
I stumbled
Yep.
across that somehow. I was like, oh, cool. So I was able to do that. It's fun. I've
I've checked in a few times.
Yeah, I've had
It's a really good game.
So
I feel like they've really perfected the XCOM style.
yeah, and I think if they build on that with the Chaos Gate, it's going to be sweet. So I'm going to Twitch that
yeah.
at some point this weekend, perhaps, or next week, as well as Legion stuff. And I got a schedule. I don't have dates yet, but as far as plugs go, there will be an April Bar Night Legions, and there is an April Decklist contest, and there will be an April Steam stream. I just don't know when, so I don't have those to hardcore plug, but I am going to plug deck slots, and I'm going to plug premium bots and deck slots. Let's do it. Let's go, Evergill.
Premium bots.
premium bots get premium slots. Slots, not squats.
No, I'm so happy squats are back.
I don't like. Listen, I mean, we could talk about squats, and there is probably 5 or 6 million podcasts that are talking about squats right now.
Purely about squats.
100%. This is the squat podcast. It's the Squatcast.
We talk about squats. Nothing else.
Nothing
if you're
else.
Not a fan of squats, get the fuck out.
They're
the squat squad.
Yes, there's guys with like 500 episode podcasts, and their only episode that people tuned in was like last week. Anyway,
gotta hear all the info about them dwarvy boys.
Yes. So I mean, I great. They're cool in the game, but they just aesthetically, they look like they could go in any sci-fi game currently. There's just nothing that screams like 40K to me, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity. But I understand that.
In their defense, we saw like one model.
I know, but I understand that is the Games Workshop mission as of latest, who have a broader appeal. So time will tell, Axel. Time will tell.
Time will tell.
It's not going to make me buy squats. I'm not going to buy squats. I want to buy.
I might buy squats.
Sisters models. I'll do that.
That's also a good option, though. Sisters models usually
Sisters are so
like they're really nice. They are.
Oh, you got anything
my
to plug,
squats? I think I'm gonna have to do the usual. I'm gonna have to plug our boy Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. My good boy Dorn. He does commissions. He does my profile picture. He did your profile picture, Scuff. He does Burn Night Legion's art. He's a really good artist. Really good friend of mine. Overall good dude. He works in an animal shelter. Nice guy. You know, the usual.
All right. How about you, Tryhard? Anything to plug?
Oh, a few things. I'm going to plug the monthly subreddit tournament.
That was a really good one.
I came in second last month with an asterisk because we're pretty sure that Dole7 tanked his match with me, his third one anyway, and got a bunch of gold out of it, and someone donated their legendary they won for winning the whole thing to me, which was very, very kind. And I think partially because a lot of the people playing are vets who have every card anyway. So there's that topic. But we had 32 people last month, which is, I think, historically a lot.
Yeah.
Not including like major like World Cups. That's a lot.
I hopped in on it just to bump the pricing up because it was like they needed like 1 or 2 more people. I was like, all right, I'll hop in just to get my name in there.
Yeah.
Like I was glad to get the pricing up there because that's typically it's like what, like 8, maybe 12.
Yeah. About.
Yeah. So 32. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Let's move that towards another shout out to our boy Dorn because he's the man who set that up. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and that's a lot of friggin' work.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that's a lot of work. Because just scheduling the matches between you and the person you have next is work. And then he's going to adjudicate like what happens if someone just kind of goes AWOL, et cetera, et cetera. So like I think the actual tournament finished up like in April. It took that long. So that aspect of it was like I really enjoyed the whole way. I wish people would not tank or join if they plan to tank at some point. That's my 2 cents. Just if you're going to win the game. And if you don't need any cards, think about not joining. I don't know.
Well, in their defense, if the more people who join, the more gold got given out. That's the EG model for tournaments.
That's true.
That's why I joined. I was also heavily restricted, and so
I do respect the vets who join in.
I was happy to.
I will also say that Duel 7's deck building skills are as good as I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, Duel is a very good player. He's
incredible.
Twice or once? He might have only been on once. Yep. He's a good buddy. He's a good buddy of mine. He's a very good player. He's a little piece of shit. I hope he hears this. Yeah.
So yeah, like I posted the match where I won my prizing on Reddit. After like the first round, every match went 3 rounds. Everybody played close. I was lucky to get as far as I did, and I had a lot of fun between Abaddon and Korvax's Utter Blight, and I think it was Kazrin. So, tons of fun. Kind of a pain to set up the matches day to day, but that's the price you pay when a bunch of people are playing out of Europe.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I publish a game called Die Screaming on Drive-Thru RPG. That's kind of one of my hobbies. You can find it on there pretty quickly. And, that's basically what I do. I write for a living, and I try to put that to work for this game and some other projects. So
nice. What is it again on Drive-Thru RPG?
Die Screaming.
Die Screaming. I'm thinking Dice Remake,
Yes.
but it's D-I-E.
Yeah, so am I.
Screaming.
Either or. It's a D20 game, so it's easy to pick up and play if you have any background in that. It's a kind of one of those long-term projects that I've always done on the side for, it had its genesis when I was in college more than 10 years ago, and it's gotten to a point where it's pretty solid, and I usually play it with my friends, and our patches to it that I write are kind of come out of results of those games, and after 10 years it's looking pretty tight, but it's never been something where I'm like, I got to publish this next year or I'll never get my publishing career off. It's just kind of a hobby. So
That's always good to have a little hobby like that.
Yeah, I would encourage that. Even if you don't want to be a serious publisher one day, just if you like writing, get into it as a hobby.
Yeah, find your niche.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend going all in on publishing, especially physical or digital publishing at this point.
This day and age, it's a different world.
Yeah.
It's self-publishing. Digital self-publishing, like you can do it, and it'll be out there.
Most of the people I hear from publishing tabletop games are doing it for the love of the game and not for the love of the money.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Put it that way.
Exactly.
You heard it here first, folks. Move to Las Vegas and devote your life to publishing. That's what we're doing.
Vegas needs.
I'm a technical writer in the main, so that's I'm like, why don't I just write guides for these factions, and people receive those well. I've never claimed to know everything, and I think based on this podcast, I definitely don't. But keep going, and I'll try and support the game however I can.
Yeah, that's always good.
It is. That's all we can do. And if you're putting out stuff, whether it's posting, putting out content, or putting out guides, people come across them. They may not come across them day one. They might come across them a week later, a month later. Sometimes, especially if it's getting a lot of hits or it's relevant information. It's comprehensive, and.
Yeah,
especially with the we're still seeing new players. I actually have been keeping an eye and trying to hit. I've got mentors, I've got trainees, I should say, that are actually new and actually enjoying the game. It's like, all right, so they exist, they're real. People are still coming across things. They're still finding videos or articles and want to know more about the game. And the fact that there's that stuff out there for them makes it a lot easier, a lot more accessible. So keep it up.
Yeah, I definitely I have an Alpha Legion post that I published last December, and I still get responses to that from people asking about stuff. So, yeah, it has long legs when you put more effort in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's always nice.
All right. Well, that's all I've got. I don't have much else going on. We talked about the wolves. We talked about the patch. Covered a lot. Talked about a lot of non-40K stuff, but sometimes that's what happens in conversation. Yeah, for anybody out there who's stuck with us for this long of the episode or gone through it all, appreciate it. We've got coming up next, I believe we're going to be talking about the night households. I don't know who's going to be on that week yet. Got to find somebody who really either wants to or doesn't want to talk. It's going to swing one of two ways. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
I think you want a person who, like Juan, who almost joined us today, who plays at 5,000 ranking and knows all about it.
I think it would get a good conversation, but it might be a very much sour conversation at the same time.
Yeah, it might also be dumping on it pretty hard, which, if that's
they did shape the meta.
Yeah, they did.
For better or for worse. For better or for worse. They are the face of the meta.
Yeah.
It is a knight-shaped face.
Nightmare.
And we got a pun in the final moments.
That'll be the title. That'll be something to go off of.
No, we already. Oh, for next time.
For next week, yeah.
I was gonna say this week we already got a killer title, which I will be sad if I don't see those words go.
I don't know. If I type that in, that might get me censored. I gotta be careful.
That might get you censored.
I don't want to get censored.
You might just need to use it. You might just have to use their literal name because their names are close. Hentai and What is it? Hemtai or something like that.
I think it's
Hemtal.
We can workshop this.
Yeah,
they're stupidly close.
Yeah,
we're not making a stretch by calling them.
All right. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for checking out this week's episode. Hopefully, we'll see you back here next time. And that's it. Bye.
Bye.
The sunlight dims.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Eternal loyalty! Burn it! Burn it all! Well executed!